Is all you need to build a computer a screwdriver?
Yeah.
Really? That's it? How do you know how much of the paste to put on? Have you heard of this motherboard brand, MSI?
MSI is very famous.
They're famous? Okay. Yeah, I'd be totally lost if I was trying to do this.
Okay, this might be the dumbest idea I've ever had, but today we're gonna see if Amazon can install my new motherboard into my gaming PC. So you know, like when you check out, you know, when you go to like buy something on Amazon, a PC part specifically, it sometimes gives you that option for expert installation where someone will actually come to your house and do it for you. Yeah, I actually opted for that. It was like $81.81 to get this B450 Tomahawk Max installed. That'll be going in my existing gaming PC, quote unquote, which you can see here is not too bad. It's actually a fairly high-end system. We've got a Ryzen 7 2700X and an RTX 2080 from Asus, 16 gigs of RAM. The motherboard in here is an ASRock B450 Pro 4, which is definitely a lower-end board than the Tomahawk we're swapping it out with today. I really have no idea how this is gonna go, but it's already not looking good. The guy just texted me this.
Before diving in, this video is sponsored by the Corsair Vengeance 6182 gaming PC. The all-AMD system sports a Ryzen 7 3700X and a Radeon RX 5700 XT that'll handle streaming, video editing, and any game you throw at it. Also featured is an X570 motherboard, 16 gigs of DDR4 memory, AIO liquid cooler, and M.2 NVMe storage. All of this hardware is mounted perfectly inside Corsair's 280X Micro ATX chassis. In a sea of terrible pre-built desktops, this is one of the good ones. Click on the link below to learn more.
I really have no idea how this is gonna go, but it's already not looking good. The guy just texted me this. Hey, this is your technician from Amazon Home Services. I'll send you an ETA, blah, blah, blah. I just wanna let you know that if you want me to replace the motherboard and install the drivers for you, it will cost you more. Which is really interesting because on Amazon's website, it even specifies that price includes driver installation. So it'll be really interesting to talk to him a bit more when he gets here and figure out what that's all about. I also wanna test his tech knowledge a little bit, so I'm gonna throw a wrench in here. We've got a Ryzen 9 3900X that I'm actually gonna ask him to install on the new motherboard instead of the 2700X, which will require a BIOS update, assuming this board doesn't already ship with the latest one that's gonna make Ryzen 3000 series CPUs compatible. So we'll see. The final thing to note here is that since this guy may be aware of our YouTube channel, or he may know what I look like or who I am, today I've decided to go undercover as my alter ego, Carl. Wifey Sauce can't wait for this video to be over so I can get rid of the mustache. But the guy should be here any minute now, so let's see how this goes. I guess if you can't get here till later, because I've got plans in the evening, so I guess we're gonna have to reschedule, right?
Yeah, we can do that. We can reschedule it for some other day. And the cost I talked to our office, and they said the cost I have to give you is something like $220.
Is it? Did you say it would be $220 for my job? Because when I checked out on Amazon, it said it was $81, and it said it included driver installation.
Yeah, Amazon, if you the amount based on category, not based on the actual job. In the job description, they always mention that the technician has some more jobs to do, but the technician can update the product.
I see. So it could say $81, but then the technician could look at your computer and say, well, it's actually $500.
Yeah, some technician maybe say that amount.
Okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right, bye-bye. What the actual
Whoa, well hold on here. Let's find out more details. Maybe there's some fine print here. Okay, so what does it say? Somewhat in their defense, it does say that the $81 is an estimate. They are telling you that it's an estimate and subject to change, but what happens when you hover over this? It says, how do estimates work? Pros base their estimates on a standard scope of work, and 9 out of 10 customers see no change in final pricing. Guess I'm just really unlucky. You will have a chance to review the service details and confirm final pricing with your pro before the work begins. What's totally ridiculous about this is that if this is the estimate for all of these services, these are all the services that I require for my job, how is the actual figure that I'm being quoted by the technician nearly 3 times that amount? Why don't we call him and find out?
An associate will join you shortly. Thank you for calling Amazon. My name is...
I had a question about an installation service that I purchased through you guys for a computer motherboard. The pricing that I saw on Amazon for the service was $81, and it does say that it's an estimate, but when I asked the technician what it would cost, he said that it was going to be closer to $220, which is almost 3 times the amount, which I just thought was kind of surprising.
Okay, how much is asking now for this?
I think it was around $220 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's too much.
What he said was that the $81 is just sort of like a universal kind of blanket pricing that Amazon puts on a variety of their components, and that it's ultimately up to the technician to determine the scope of the project and change the price accordingly.
Yes, that's correct, but I think that is excessive. 220. Let me call the other providers available in your area, and I call you back in around 10 to 15 minutes to check if I found something, and ask them how much will be for this job.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't find any other provider for you, but one of the I contact, they explained me something that we having troubles with this price, that correct price will be around $160. The technician, when I speak with from another provider, he told me this price that you have in the page is not fair because it's almost placed a new computer itself. That this job is very delicate. That's why they consider that this the price is it has to be almost the double that we have in the page.
But when I paid the $81 on Amazon, it says that service is included in the $81 estimate. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I understand that we have to change that because this other technician told me almost the same thing, that this job is more work that we wanted is in the details from the webpage from us.
So what you're basically saying is that it's really Amazon's quote of the $81 that they estimate is completely false and way off.
Yes.
I see. So this is really Amazon's issue. I was thinking maybe it was one of the technicians.
Yes, at the beginning I think that it was that technician is taking, well, in this case it's also asking too much for my end, but
yeah, right.
The other technician told me that the fair price is around $160, around that.
Yeah, geez, maybe someone at higher up on Amazon needs to change that $81 price tag then,
In this case, what I can do for you is that I can apply $50 as promo certificate to your Amazon account, but you will need to pay the technician the $220. This $50 that I can do for you is the maximum that I can offer you to compensate a little bit the extra amount that you have to pay for that.
What you're telling me is that that's probably the best you could do is bring down the cost from 220 to 170, which is still more than double the estimate that I was told. Okay. Okay.
Sorry for that.
Wow. It's just a hard pill to swallow,
Yes, I completely understand this because it's the double that you have to pay more.
Okay, so I guess is he still scheduled to come on Sunday then?
Yeah.
All right.
I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
This whole thing is just getting stupider by the minute. They're telling customers they can expect to pay roughly $80 for a specific list of services, when in reality, they could be paying up to twice that or more. Nowhere on Amazon's page does it say, hey, these are estimates, but you might be paying double. That's just absolutely dishonest, and it's going to lead, probably already has led, to so many infuriated and confused customers. And the best solution that Amazon has come up with is to give them a $50 credit towards their Amazon account. So in the end, I'll have to pay the full $220 amount, but I'll be receiving a $50 credit towards my Amazon account, which brings my total cost to $170, which is still more than double the $81 I was expecting to pay.
Hey, yes, how are you?
Carl, thanks for coming by. All right, so the technician is done, he just left, and the job is complete. So let's talk about how it went. For starters, it probably goes without saying that your mileage may vary here depending on the technician that you get. Each one's probably gonna be a little different, but this was my experience. So when George, we'll just call him George, when George arrived, he was immediately professional, super friendly. It actually kind of turned around my whole opinion of him initially after the scheduling mishap. I'm still gonna hold him to that because I still think it could have been handled better, but once he got here, it was like a complete 180. And my whole shtick, you know, being undercover was that I wanted to learn. I sort of wanted to shadow him the whole time. Knowing that, he was actually very helpful along the way, showing me little things, giving me tips, and imparting some of his knowledge in an area that I had expressed interest in learning more about.
Then when I install the CPU, there is a side with a mark, so you need to find which side has one pin less.
I see,
Match these to that point.
Okay. So, you know, apart from having to reschedule our first appointment, everything about the technician from a customer service standpoint in terms of friendliness, professionalism was 100% on point. Now, diving into the more technical stuff, when he first saw the system, he had me do a test boot with the monitor connected to ensure that it was working properly. That way, you know, if he finished his work and the system wouldn't post, he would know and be able to verify that it wasn't some pre-existing issue with the system. So I booted it up, of course it worked, it booted into Windows no problem, that was all he needed to see, so he shut the system down, disconnected the peripherals, and got to work. The first thing he did was strip down the motherboard. He removed the graphics card, the memory, the AIO water block. He did leave the CPU mounted in the motherboard when he removed the whole thing from the case. Once the board was out, I did hand him the new motherboard and CPU, which again is a Ryzen 9 3900X and an MSI B450 Tomahawk Max. And he only asked me one thing. He just said,
You check that the CPU is compatible with the motherboard, huh?
yeah. And I left it at that. I didn't say yes, but you might need a BIOS update in order for it to work properly. I was just coming at this from the average Joe, you know, non-tech savvy customer that wouldn't know that sort of thing. I was really more so testing his knowledge to see if he would ask me that, but he never did. He just asked, is it compatible? I said yes. So he carried on. At one point he had some difficulty mounting the board in the case because he had flipped the IO shield around, but I didn't point it out. I let him figure it out on his own, which he quickly did in like 30 seconds or so.
Oh my god, I checked this, but I saw it.
Oh, is it backwards?
Yeah.
Flipped it around, board went in, he screwed it down, and then just began plugging things in. He mounted the AIO water block back onto the CPU. He used a tremendous amount of thermal paste that, I mean, I haven't checked temps yet. I'm sure they're fine, but I think it was a bit gratuitous. It was like verge status, seriously. Once the board was mounted to the standoffs, he proceeded to start plugging things back into the board, but because this is a different board with its connectors in different locations than the last board, he had to rewire some things, you know, pass cables through different cutouts than they were originally routed through, and things like that. But he seemed to do all that with little difficulty. There was one snag that he hit though. He had no idea what to do with the USB cable that goes from the AIO water block to the USB 2.0 header on the board.
Is that another fan cable?
No, this is for USB, but we connect all the USB cables. I don't see any use of this.
I had to sort of point him in the right direction here. I didn't exactly tell him where it was, but I kind of put my finger on the AIO and I was like, maybe there's some cables coming off of here. I don't know if this is, you know, if you could look at that. And then he sort of like used his finger and felt around the side of the water block to feel for any ports, where he actually found the micro USB port and was like, oh, I think it goes to this. And this was the first thing that confirmed what he had told me earlier, which was that he doesn't really work on gaming PCs specifically very often. Most of his clientele, whether it be through Amazon or elsewhere, are Mac owners or Apple users. You could definitely tell he knew a lot about PCs and worked with them extensively as well, but I think it was more in the line of like, you know, your dad's old Dell system or, you know, the family computer in the living room. I don't think he's very well versed or has a lot of experience servicing cats or gaming PCs specifically, which explains why he was sort of thrown off by this cable that belonged to an AIO, an all-in-one liquid cooler, which is typically only found in high-end gaming systems. He did install the 2 memory sticks in the wrong DIMM slots.
I noticed that right off the bat, but I didn't say anything, and it turns out that I didn't need to, which we'll circle back to the memory thing in just a bit. But after that, I think we were pretty much ready to roll. Before we talk about booting, I did want to point out the cable management job that he did. So on the back side, it's actually not too bad. He pulled out some zip ties, some tweezers. These clear ones are the ones that he did. And he just did, a quick little routing job. It actually looks a little bit better than it did before. So, he didn't get too crazy with it, but the side panel definitely went on no problem. Doesn't look like a complete rat's nest back here. But when you get to this side, there's a cat again. A couple things here. So I took some before and after photos of the cable management particularly on this side of the system, just to see how he did. And for the most part, if you're just kind of looking at it from afar, it doesn't look bad. You wouldn't really think twice. But upon further inspection, you do start to notice a couple things that were left undone. Like the cables here, see how the wires are crossing over each other in some areas? That wasn't like that before, but again, if he's not used to working on gaming PCs, then this probably doesn't stand out to him as being a potential eyesore. He doesn't realize that this is a cable trainer meant to keep all the cables straight and from crossing over, things like that. The water block job, maybe it could have been routed a little bit cleaner, had he routed this cable like through here or something like that, but again, not the worst you've ever seen. I would say that the hairiest area is down here with the front panel connectors. Like again, he's not used to working with a gaming case potentially with so many different cutouts for routing cables that he might not have thought, oh, there's actually a better way to route this front panel connector. The last thing I'll point out is that the sleeving on one of the AIO tubes came undone, so it kind of just ripped off there. It's hard to say if it was more him or more the factory. At the very least, it was kind of a bummer to see that at the end of the job, but that pretty much sums up the cable management. So not the best I've seen, not the worst I've seen. At that point, we were ready to turn the system on, so we connected the peripherals and we just waited. We just kind of waited to see what would happen. And the first thing that popped up on the screen was actually a message from the MSI BIOS saying that our RAM sticks were in the incorrect slots, that they should be moved to slots 2 and 4. The technician immediately took note, powered the system down, and then rearranged the sticks in the proper configuration. So once he rearranged the memory and rebooted the system, we jumped right into Windows, which meant that this motherboard already shipped with the updated BIOS required to run our Zen 2 processor. So again, the board came in clutch here and saved the technician probably a good half an hour of time to try to figure out why the system wouldn't post, and then having to flash the BIOS, and everything was good. We were ready for testing. He told me at that point to jump into a game, try playing, and just to see how it performed. I jumped into Resident Evil 2, was playing for about a minute or two, and everything was smooth. Everything was working beautifully. Based on how everything was looking, he pretty much said, that's a wrap, job complete. Part of me wishes that he would have taken the extra time to look at the motherboard manufacturer support page just to see if there were any other drivers or maybe even utilities that the client may or may not want to use. For example, I know this motherboard doesn't have it, but if it did have built-in Wi-Fi, would he have gone the extra mile to download the driver for that? Or even if it was just stupid RGB software, whatever it was, had he just gone to the support page briefly to see if there was anything on there that I wanted or needed, that would have been a nice touch. In his defense, because he didn't do any driver installation or have to do a clean install of Windows or anything like that, he did deduct $20 off of the total price, which meant I paid $200 out the door to have my motherboard and CPU upgraded. From start to finish, it took him about an hour and 45 minutes to complete the task, which I thought was perfectly reasonable, definitely a lot faster than the initial 3 hours he had quoted me. I think it just went a bit smoother than he anticipated, which could also factor into why he reduced the price a little bit. But my biggest complaint with this whole experience is the fact that Amazon's estimate is so off and so unrealistic compared to the actual price that customers are paying that it's like almost in scam territory. People think they're gonna be paying X amount and they end up paying 3X or even 2X. Like I did today. And I'm only getting a $50 credit back to my account because I complained. Most customers, a lot of customers aren't. They're just gonna accept it and end up paying ridiculous amounts for a service that Amazon told them was gonna be a lot lower. So it's something that they need to fix, because I can't recommend the service, not because of the technician was fine, but the quotes that Amazon is giving its customers for services like this are dishonest, deceptive, and not a sustainable way to do business. So it needs to be changed now. But that's all I've got for now, guys. You know the drill. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it, and get subscribed to the channel for more tech content on the way. We've got a lot of good stuff just like this coming up soon. Also, check out Bitwit.tech, our merchandise store. We have a lot of high quality items, and anything you buy is a great way to help support what we do here and the types of content that we make. Like this video, it actually took a lot of time and money, as you guys just saw, in order to do something like this. So anything that you buy from the store immediately goes back into the channel so we can continue bringing you rich content like this. Guys, thank you so much again for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.